Howdy, folks. How we doing? How is everybody's late summer or winter, depending on what part of the world you're in, going? Um, Here it's summer, of course, and it's bloody hot outside. So we're going to stay inside, and we're going to talk about how to increase your profits with stuff you already have, resources you already have, knowledge you already have, and I would hope some of this is frankly, I would hope some of this is you already knew, but not everybody thinks about this stuff, which keeps people like me in a job. And that sounds terribly crass, but it's true. Um, no, I'm glad because I mean, 20 years of business experience. I want to be able to circle that knowledge back. And if there's anything I learned from that 20 years of business experience, it is keeping track of this stuff and ways to keep that stream going as best we can. Because sometimes, as marketers, as small business owners, as whatever wherever you find yourself, we get hung up in the new stuff and we kind of forget not necessarily what worked, but we forget some of the other details that really could help us and make a big difference there. So let's dive into this. We are ready for action. Making sure here, trying out a not a new web browser, but a new to me web browser. So making sure we get everything intact, so we can get this done and figured out. So, all right, we're talking about increasing profits with what you already have, dramatically increasing profits. So I will warn you, this stuff is not sexy. It's not fun. It's not glamorous. It's not the cool new toy. But if you will follow it, this will perform more for you than anything else you are doing, period, the end, except for more sales. But this, kind of speaks to the heart of getting more sales. But it's the back office side. It's the seedy underbelly of it. So if you will take the time to really think about how you can master this and make the most out of it, you're going to get huge rewards. You're going to get huge benefits out of it. Okay. So let's start off with that and what we're going to talk about. So we're going to talk about optimizing what you offer. Okay, that will be products and services. And we'll spend some time talking about that. For most of you, it's services, but could be some products in there too. And we're going to talk about optimizing how your longevity, how long a customer stays with you, and that's your time. That's the time we're talking about here, the time spent with the customer, and getting the most value out of that. And we're going to talk about optimizing prices and costs, and that's the unglamorous part. That is the huge deal. And then going to propose something I call the new car, used car theory. It won't take a lot of imagination to figure it out, but I hope it is valuable for you, and I hope you take away something from it that will make a huge difference in whatever business that you do. All right, so I've got Lucky, my trusted lab, down here. So if you hear funky noises or see an occasional black tail, he's a black lab. So he is under the desk, and we are ready to go. We're ready for action. So, all right, so let's talk about optimizing what you offer, the products and services that you offer. So here's the thing, the principle: the more you can offer, the more profit you can get out of them. The more you can continue to entice people to buy, existing customers. I mean, this is mostly existing customers. This is not necessarily new customers. New customers are going to enter your world and they're going to go through your sales cycle, and that's wonderful. It's about these customers that have been with you for a while that you continue to show value to. All right. So let's talk about the first concept we could do is upsells and cross sells. Before I do that, let's go back to the catalog just for a second, because you have a list of products and services that you offer. These are things you develop. These are processes you put together, whether you provide them or you get somebody else to provide them through you. You have your list to offer. So we're going to take some time looking at that and how you can fix those to continue to add value to what you do, and how that can be extremely important to what's here and what's happening. So upsells and cross sells, we know them, we love them. Upsells are obviously, getting somebody to a higher. Trying to find my mouse here. Trying to get somebody to a higher level of working with you. Um, so that is a upscale product. That is something different. That is something they're not currently making use of. So you're going to want that and have that next step for those people, whether it's up front or not. Cross sell is something to really, it's actually even more. It's to keep them going, but it's a similar product as opposed to something we'll talk about in a minute, just an additional product and service that doesn't have anything to do with it. Is there a way that you can transition them from one product as they near the end of it to a similar product at a similar price point to keep that going? Maybe it's a different level of a maintenance plan or something, but it's the same idea that's not too much different than what they're paying. So you keep those doors open, or you find a way to add more value, or you change something around. But that would be a cross sell. And of course, the upsell is, okay, you really like this so far. You want to keep going. And do you want more? Do you want more of the same? Do you need more functionality? Do you need something else done that I'm not currently providing? Well, guess what? I do provide it. And would you like it? So then we can make that up to a to bring that up to another level. All right, sorry, there's dog shifting around. I've warned you. All right, so the next thing we can talk about is in this whole thing is bundling. To this end, can we take and combine services and put them together and particularly throw in ones that don't cost a lot to put together? Can they have tremendous value, such value that you will, that you can put them together into a system? Now, there's been some in the schools of thought of the people that I follow. There's been some conflict here. Do you provide things a la carte? Or do you consider the idea of bundling them together into a system? I still believe that you can provide. It's sort of a mix of both, but it rings true. The nice thing about a system is that you can offer sausage without having to see how the sausage is made. Then they don't get into what it costs for something for you to provide it, because trust me, they will tear it apart if they find out. So bundling allows you to put those concepts together in one system that serves people. Now you can have multiple bundles. All right, you can have several bundles, many bundles as you want, as you feel like you want to keep track of. But they should all be easily kept track of, and that way you can throw in lots of extra things that have the look of and do provide tremendous value without adding to your costs to provide them. Okay, so we don't have to itemize everything. That's why bundling is so powerful. Yes, upsells and cross sells are good, and you can combine this. You can have an upsell bundle and a cross sell bundle that's similar, but bundling is a tremendous way to do this. All right, and then there's the concept of additional products and services. All right, so this is what we talked about a minute ago. These are things that are outside of your of what you offer completely. The core bundles or the core level of what you offer as a whole. And then so this is something completely different. This would be like for you chiropractors, if you do an adjustment and then you decide to employ somebody, not a contractor necessarily. I mean, I guess they ultimately could be. And this happens a lot. Okay. I'm just going to pull an example out there. Say you have your regular adjustment process that you take people through, and then you bring in somebody to do facials and relaxing massage. It happens a lot in chiropractic practices I've seen. So it's something that's not directly related to what you're doing, but since you're already there and you're already in the wellness mindset, here is something that you can provide that adds extra value. And then if it's somebody from the outside, maybe you get referrals for it. But that's additional products and services. It adds to your catalog, but it's not directly related to, let's face it, we all kind of have main things, or we should have main things that we sell. main things that we do, main services that we offer. And then you have the other stuff on the outside that could be cool, but and could somehow circle back and benefit what you offer. But it's not, it's not directly connected in the sense that it's kind of the same, wellness. So in that example, but it's not directly related to getting adjusted to get that massage. So at least that particular type that I'm thinking of, or facials or whatever. That's kind of more med spa-ish, but it could all flow together in the general sense of wellness. If you're already there healing your body, here's a way to do it a little bit more and maybe help some injuries that help the chiropractic adjustments go better. Or help relieve patient pain or that sort of thing. So there's lots of things you can do to add to different stuff, and you can also elect to include, and this factors into your costs, joint ventures, that's JVs, and referrals. Okay, so this becomes, since we're talking about profit, this is an income stream because you're getting paid for the referrals that you give people that allow you to expand your catalog. Make sense? So you bring in, whether it's white label, whether it's another service entirely, but you still, but here's my caution with that. I mean, it's a fantastic way to do this, because then you get somebody to come in with their expertise that you don't have to work on, that's not your expertise. But here's the trick. If you're going to offer that, and especially if you're going to bundle it, or if you're going to do some other things, just to kind of bring this back around, you need to obviously, ride roughshod, as they say, oversee it without getting in the middle of it, but oversee the process if you outsource it to somebody else, because you're still the face of what they're offering. And if there's a problem, they're going to come to you first, even though they may deal with that other person every day, all day. If they know they're from a different company, they're going to circle back to you and say, hey, what's going on here? So it's in your best interest to at least have a little bit of a stake in control, at least, or oversight. Oversight is the best word, of what they're offering and how it fits into your grand scheme of what you offer. And that's okay. That should be that way. That's part of the deal. We've talked before about different types of referrals, whether they're a little bit more interactive, or it's something that is, up the chain or down the chain from you, that you don't have direct control over, other than who you refer to it to keep it going, or who you receive from those referrals. So there's collaborative referrals, and there's chain referrals. So this is really, I mean, depending on how you want to do it, but in this particular case, if you really want to increase your profit here, it should be a little more collaborative, perhaps than down the chain. However, you could still make tremendous amounts of money by just referring people down the chain, keeping them in the buying process, keeping them going with things that they need as a logical result of what you provided, and benefiting from those referrals, just as you probably had to pay referrals for people sending customers to you. And that's okay. That's part of the way this works. And, that's part of the way this whole thing can work. But for sheer profit, the other would be a cost. So, and that's okay. But just so you know, it's cost for paying up the line. But if you're paying down the line for people, or getting paid down the line for people you're referring, that is a profit. So there's that. And but all this fits together nicely into dynamic packages that make sure you add a lot of value to what you're doing. Anything you add for customers, make sure it adds far more value than it costs to provide. And we'll talk about that some more in just a little bit. But I wanted to bring in a familiar model for those of you who are regular watchers of this. So this is my attempt, never mind the numbers. This is my attempt to list out how the profit and cost chain works. Okay, so this is, excuse me. We start with the overall, the revenue. Everything that comes in is your revenue. Okay, So every bit of money, I don't care where it comes from, what it's for, anything that enters your bank account as paid to you is revenue. Okay, be it from referrals, be it from purchases, be it from whatever. Okay, rent or rent paid to you or whatever. That's all revenue. Then we go to cost of goods sold. Now this and overhead are a little tricky, but we're going to parse that out because it's important as to how this works and how you benefit from it. Okay, so cost of goods sold is what it takes, the cost that it takes to provide a specific product or service. This is not your light bill. This is not your internet cost. This is not your whatever. This is what it takes to provide that specific product or service. And so once you deduct those costs, what you're left with is the gross profit. Okay. So, but we're not done. Gross profit's great, but you have one more thing to take out. And say in the digital marketing world, this is or somebody that's online service based, these numbers are kind of skewed from a typical business. So it looks because there's a lot less cost to put something together unless you completely outsource it, and then you have to deal with that. But the gross profit is what's left. Then you take out overhead. Then that is the light bill or employee salaries or taxes or fees for certification to have certain certifications or software costs or whatever. Particularly on software, there could be some float back and forth depending on how it's used and applied between overhead and the cost of goods sold up here. There's sometimes very specific softwares that apply only to what you're doing, and then there's softwares like a CRM that's overall your profit, your entire strategy here. So those will float back and forth depending on how your business is configured. But once your overhead is taken out, this is not owner profit, by the way. This or owner, unless you specifically set aside something for some reason, say you have multiple owners and you set aside to pay one of them or two of them specifically. That's typically not a cost here, but employee salaries and support is a cost of overhead. And finally, you are left with a net profit at the bottom, and that is what the owner and CEO takes home, or the owner particularly takes home, or they reinvest, or they do different things with it. But this is the final, when all the bills are paid down here, this is what's left. And yeah, that looks like a minuscule little number, a really small number, but it's sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. In the digital and service world, that's actually a pretty big number. Or it can be anyway, depending on what your overhead is like to provide the services and things. So I hope this kind of visually lays it out. We'll be referencing this a lot throughout this whole thing. So let's take it back to prices. So products and services. Prices are coming up later. But whenever you talk about the products and services that you offer, where does that land? Where does adding more products or services or bundling things around or doing things differently, where does that land in this model? Well, if you're adding products, unless there's if there's not an extra cost to them, see, that's the goal, is to try to add as many products as are reasonable, not everything possible that you could ever do, but what makes sense for your business model, adding those without adding cost. Because if you add cost, that would go up here in the cost of goods sold, right? That you have to take out. And then so the income would start with revenue, and then it would have to go through cost of goods sold. But if you can figure out how to and this is where bundling makes a huge amount of sense, or upsells and cross sells, because if it doesn't cost you any more than what it already does to generate, to provide these products or services, then that starts right here. Starts right here at the gross profit, which is fun, because then it makes that gap bigger, and you get more margin and you get more profit. Okay, you see how that works kind of on the backside. So whenever you're adding, and when you add referrals, it's the same way. That goes in right here too. You still have to take out for overhead. for regular recurring costs that you have that are not directly related to this, because you still have to pay those bills regardless. But you're putting that in right here. You're not worrying about this. And so this is where it can get really fun with referrals if you do that well, and with bundling if you do that well, because it can really make this profit, more than what you were taking in revenue up here. Be a different number, because then, this is not what you're taking in. I mean it is, but you don't have any cost of goods sold. So it really would come in right here, if this makes any sense, if I'm making sense with this. And so you then just that top starts going up, but the bottom stays where it is the way that works. So there starts to be a split here between your profits that are going up, and the split's right here. So this bar goes up like this, and this bar, the overhead, goes down a little bit, because you're able to do more with fewer resources, doesn't cost you as much. And so there you are. And so then you can really get a nice profit going by adjusting the products and services that you offer, combining them, and finding ways to add value without adding cost. Okay, heady stuff, but you hopefully you're with me so far on this. Okay, let's go to the second thing here, and talk about time spent. Okay, so this is a little harder to quantify, but the principle here is the longer they stay with you, the more they can potentially buy. Okay, the more money they can spend, the longer they stay with you. And that's a good and wonderful thing. And we're very happy for that. That we can be, for two reasons. One, obviously they're spending more money, but two, they're fostering a relationship. They're wanting to stay around you. This is a world that people get what they need and get away. But if you're adding value to them, if you're doing some things that are truly amazing and worthwhile for them, they'll stay with you, and they'll foster that relationship with you. So that's the idea of the principle here. So increasing longevity. What can you do? What kind of value can you add to get them to stay with you and mostly continue to pay money? So that's the idea of constantly adding value. Constantly look for ways to do this. Look for extra things you could add. Okay. And what that speaks to very much, what that speaks to very much is the concept of the market dominating position. Okay. If you, so just a refresher, even though we talk about it a lot, not everybody steps into these things at that particular point, right? So the idea of a market dominating position is that whenever you offer something, you understand your audience so well, you have learned what they do so well, that you learned what their hot button issues are. If you know what their hot button issues are, what the problem they need solved, the problem they have but don't want, and the solution, and you have the solution they want but don't have, then that just makes this absolutely perfect connection. Where they will then come to you because you're the only one, or at least the only one they know in their immediate circle, who can solve their problem. When you're talking about online, when you're talking about local, that's fantastic, because you want to be the authority in your given area. When you're talking about online, that's a little harder and a little less realistic. But it does allow you to to do some things and to stand out in their circles of people that they know, even though it's online. You become that solution provider for them, and that allows them to make that happen. So when we talk about longevity versus, here, let me get my head out of the whole thing. Let's do this. There we go. I love playing with these things. Can you tell? Make you dizzy. Okay, so when you talk about longevity versus the market dominating position, The more you understand them, the more you continue to meet those hot button issues. Maybe they have some more that come up. Maybe they have something else. Okay, you solved this problem. Guess where they're going to look? Back to you. Can you do? I've gotten this question several times. Maybe you have too. Okay, you do this. Can you do this? Do you know anything about this over here? Well, and maybe you do. And so you work it out in such a way. One of two things could happen out of that conversation. Try not to ever give them a no, but that yes may be yes, but it's not me. Okay, so here's what I mean. So whenever somebody asks you, something about something, and it's not a product you directly offer or that you have offered them. If it's something you still offer, great. Pivot over, do the cross sell, or add an additional product there, or show them the additional product or service you offer, and make that happen. Because then you continue to be their problem solver. You are their, dare I say, their fixer. You're their go-to person that they reach out to you. How many UIT people sing along with me? This is so bad and so prevalent that I think years ago, Tech Republic, which is an awesome little set of publications, did a thing about, and for several years they would do it. They had the Thanksgiving IT survival toolkit. So it's whenever you go home to your family for Thanksgiving in the US, or similar in other countries, if you have something like that, or you just go home to see your family, they know you do something, you get all those questions. Okay. The doctor gets all the medical questions. The IT person gets all the computer questions. The car mechanic gets all the car questions every single time it happens. And so they had an IT survival kit that you could put together. It was a lot of resources that you could pull together. So whenever you went home, you had this whole USB drive for the IT thing that was capable of solving all of their IT issues. Just bring their laptop here. I'll just plug or your desktop, or I'll do your phone, whatever. I'll just plug it in and we'll make it happen. So, I mean, if you can be that resource for somebody, you are locked in. That is the goal. You become their problem solver. Even if there's only one or two things that you offer and you did them such a good service that they continue reaching out to you to find other ways to do this. That is magic, and that's fun. And that is a market dominating position in action. If you can make that where it applies to your sales, that's really a market dominating position in action, because it's not just all the volunteer free advice stuff. It's actually you're getting paid for what you do. But find ways to pivot for them. And that will keep adding that will add two sets of value. Number one, it'll solve their problem and continue paying you. And two, they'll go get their friends. Trust me on this one. And they'll bring them to you, and hey, here's what we can do. And out of a sense of trying to help, out of a sense of trying to thank you and to show gratitude, out of a sense of helping your business to grow. There's lots of reasons people will do that. But one last thing on this, and we talk about saying no, yes and no. It is, if you can't do something, then do you have a list of people that you can go to, that you can shepherd them to solve that problem? Because guess what? Then you still look like the good person, the problem solver, the fixer. You're still that person. So then, even though you don't provide it, you're taking them over here to somebody who does. Well, that's a referral in action. Okay. So somebody's looking for something and you don't offer it, but your colleague, does. So you set the thing up with that colleague to say, can you provide this for them? And like we talked about earlier, you still look over the shoulder. You still at least be involved enough to understand how the situation is going and how your customer that you referred, even to a friend, is being treated. If it's a good relationship you have with the person or company you're referring to, that should be no problem. That situation should be no problem. And you should be able to periodically look in on what they're doing and make sure everything is good. If that is a problem with somebody, then maybe that's not the best place to send your referral, because the people who understand referrals and understand where that comes from get it. And they'll, as long as you don't, interfere and make their life difficult, which, then yeah, there should be no problem whatsoever with you, being a part of that, even in the chain. In some circumstances, you're passing them off to a completely different business, but you're still keeping tabs on what's going on, because if you're referring people and they have a bad experience, it's going to look bad on you too. And it'll break that, and that's not something you want. So where does that all fall? Where does longevity fall in all this? Well, as you might imagine, probably it would be right here, because if you continue to, you've already paid for the cost for the service, if there's a cost associated with it. So if they just keep going back to the well over and over again and keep buying more from you by staying longer with you, um, and there's something to be said of staying longer versus and not buying anything versus staying and buying things. So you want them to not only stay with you but to buy things from you. So that increases that longevity of purchase, and that hits right here. And so then again, there's little to no cost, so that's going down, but there is a profit, and that profit is going up. So that just makes this all the better. Your overhead cost will stay the same. So that makes this profit down here grow, because you're not taking away from the cost with costs. You're adding just revenue. Okay. Is this making a little sense now how this works? Okay. Well, if it's not somehow, then you get situations like this. So we do at JKL Works, we do a little bit of coaching. This is what we do with businesses, business and market optimization coaching. I and my team get to take 20 plus years of small business experience. I've probably been there and done that a couple of times over, and been in some very unique situations, and love to find, ways around unique issues, to make it profitable for you, to keep you going, to keep you invested, and not only invested, but making money and making profits, and serving your customers extremely well. It's not just about the money. I mean, it is, don't get me wrong, but it's also about building a customer family, serving those customers extraordinarily well, so they spread the word about you, and your business goes in, through the roof, because they're helping you by promoting what you do. So these are some of the 5 core areas, pillars, if you will, that we work with, foundations, more, and we've been talking about them. If you pay attention over the last little bit of time, for those of you who are new, more leads, more conversions, more transactions. We're over here on more profits, and this kind of sort of wraps it up. So, but these all come together to form something what we call real business life change, and we do that with a couple of different ways. Our main thing is regular coaching. We spend at least an hour a week with you. You should be spending a couple more than that. And I don't mean making sales calls, and I don't mean paying bills. I mean intentionally finding ways to grow your business. And then you go do the rest of the stuff you have to do. But we take an hour's worth of that time with you each week to do that. If that's more time than you have right now, or you just want a sounding board, or you want some other things, then we have what we call ProfitWorks Jumpstart, so we can gear it down a little bit. And it's a lot more. Several people that are embarking on that right now, because it's the level that they need. We have some curriculum, we have some focus. We try to focus on one thing a week, and to move that needle along, and provide them value, but we're also not overwhelming them with that when they're not ready. We can always go to the big thing later on, when they're truly ready to invest that time and effort in their business and watch it go through the roof. But this is a great way to start, is the ProfitWorks Jumpstart. It's what they call flash coaching. So it's a lot of 15, 20-minute sessions at a time, on demand, whenever you want, but you have to book a time, and there's usually things to do that we need to check up on before you book that time, just to make sure that you're a part of the process, and this isn't just a chat session. We want this to be productive for you. We want this to be something that you can take away every time and say, you know what, start looking forward to that session, because you learn a little something every time, and you even get to get back if there's wisdom you have that we can benefit from. Hey, we can learn too. We need to learn. There's also going to be some group experiences on the horizon where we bring in the power of community and mix that together of like people, and how that can be amazingly cool. Because speaking of giving back, they can find things, in each other, helping each other in ways that we just can't. Get a bunch of wellness people together, and if they can get over the fact that they're not in competition with each other, at least in this space, you'd see some amazing things that they can provide or they can do that somebody over here is doing that the rest of them didn't know about, and you get to watch those really cool aha moments. So we can do this a couple of ways. You're going to see some, if you haven't seen them already, some proof to success seminars and live events. I mean, seminar sounds awful, doesn't it? Like a tax audit. Sorry, financial planner guys, but it's true. So it'll be a live event, 2-day live events. They'll be online, most of them, and there's already what we're putting together introduces you to this, and we can work on turning around your business quickly if it's not doing what you want it to do, and you're in a place that you're really struggling with. That's something that we can really work on. This is the basis of what we do and how we offer it. So we have that. And we ultimately get you see the logo for a success blueprint. And that's what starts. That's a roadmap of your business and the strategies that we could try and what we think will work for your business, and lay them out for you where you get to actually see your numbers, your business as it actually is. And then we dream a little and say, okay, so if we did some of these strategies here, what would that look like? Well, this is what it would look like. So starts with that. Then we go to the ProfitWorks, the implementation. We roll that out, and we're doubling your profits within 90 days. That's our first goal. After that, we have some other ones that we can throw in that I think will blow your mind. Things that we've talked about before, and the amount of profits that we can show you. But all these are strategies, as you see, that add the more profits. This is how we do what we do, to really spread out those margins and get that going. If that all sounds cool, but the process here looks a little overwhelming and busy, start with a strategy session. Start with a business breakthrough strategy session with us. That's where we're going to get you to. Takes about 20 minutes. We'll dream with you a little bit. We will show you what's possible. We'll learn about your business, not necessarily in that order, and your goals, and really what you want it to do, and the results you're not seeing that you want to see. The problem you want but don't, the problem you have but don't want, the solution you want but don't have. Okay, those are the things we talk about, and we have some really cool ways to show you what that's going to look like. So if you've heard enough of this and me selling it, then just jump on just strategy.jklworks.com, or go to our website and scroll down to the bottom and just make your appointment. Start that journey. It's hopefully the most encouraging, best 22 minutes of your week that you will spend. And so, I hope I'll leave you, in a frame of mind that, to start spinning ideas. What if we did this? What if we did this? What if we did this? Oh, how cool would that be? What if we do this? That's the type of thing that we aim for, that creates this real business life change that we keep talking about. So I think you'll be blown away by that if you give it the opportunity. So book yours today and get that going. Now, let's talk about the last thing, and this is prices and costs. Okay. And this is probably, like I said earlier, this is probably the most important portion of this whole thing, because it really speaks to the heart of that model we've been looking at. Okay. So can you increase prices? The answer is, and have people stay with you and not lose them? The answer is actually yes. If you've seen other episodes of this, can you cut costs? Well, that's the pure, dare I say it, C word consulting model. And yes, you can, and it will have a dramatic difference on what you do. But we're going to be careful about the costs we cut, and we're going to hopefully dispel a few myths as we go through this real quick. Okay. So the principle here, although it didn't show up, there it is. The principle here is that, like we've been showing you all along, when you increase your margins, That's the distance between the profits you get and the costs. When you make that wider, you increase your profit, you increase your profits. So increasing margins increases those profits. So that's the constant goal and game here, is to find ways to increase those prices, make those prices something, people will still buy, but make them, in such a way that they will continue to buy. And, that price is way up here versus the cost keeps going down and down and down. Now there is a point of diminishing returns in cutting costs. So we'll get to that along the way here in just a minute. But first, as you see, let's talk about increasing prices. So increasing prices is something you can do. I don't want to make this too time sensitive, but at least in the US, there are times, this has happened before and it's happening now, and hopefully it will stop happening before too long, that prices have increased on things. There are other countries in the world where prices have increased on things that really cost the same thing to make. The reason that the prices are increasing is, for one reason or another, is perception. And also because of rising costs. If the costs go up and the prices don't follow with it, then they don't have that's you end up upside down on that, and that's not going to work. Upside down in these cases is never a good thing, no matter if it's physical or in this particular case. So how can you, and by the same token, let's say you've been offering services at a price that is, and people are just completely eating it up. It's wonderful. They love it. Can't get enough of it. Your schedule's full. Great things. Then you look and say, hey, could I make a little more out of this and increase my prices some to the next people that come along, and start making a little more money with this? And the answer is, without a doubt, yes. Yes, you can do that. And you know what? That's okay. That's the way business is supposed to work. You're supposed to get paid reasonably for what you do and make money with what you do. Okay. So if that means a price increase, then if it's justified, then you can almost charge whatever you want. So how do I mean justified? Okay. There's a couple things. One, it is, so if you can make this make sense by, okay, so let me see where I'm going with this. How do I explain this? Okay, we're back at the market dominating position. So price, this is how I can explain it. If you continue to solve their problems and you continue to make this something that is worth buy, and you continue to be the solution no matter what you do, and you continue to be their go-to person, then just like the longevity, just like them staying with you before, this is something you can do as well. So you're adding value to them, because that's what this is all about, adding constant value. So if you continue to solve their problems, then you can offer them something more, and you can charge a higher price. If there's a group of people, now the one you don't want to try to rate, you don't want to raise prices if you can at all avoid it on your existing customers, right? But if you have a similar group of people that you're meeting, you figured out how to meet their needs, you figured out how to speak their sales language, if you will, where this is the absolute product they need, and there's more people like them. As you come across those folks, you have the absolute solution you can offer them, and you're putting that out there. Then offering it at a higher price, and therefore raising your price, is a big deal, and it's entirely possible, and you can do it, and it's fine. It should be okay. You have to live too, so you work your way up as you're solving that problem for them. In between, and you can also raise prices on existing people if you're offering them something far more that's a better solution than what they had, with a lot of value attached to it. So you could say, hey, we're offering you, we've been working with you on this level, and these are the services we provide. We would really like to, all of our customers are doing this, to take you up to this next plan level. And yes, it's more money, and I understand that. And so if you really don't want to do that, that's fine. But let me show you what we give you for going to this level. And you make it such a no-brainer, so stupid simple for them to say, well, yeah, I want all those things, because you're continuing to solve their problems with your market dominating position. That they'll come along and they'll say, you know what? I don't like having my prices raised, but this thing is so full of solutions that I need that I'll figure it out. Or you're showing me real value on the backside that I'm not getting anywhere else. So I'll come along and I'll do this. But then they're getting even more value and willing to pay, a little bit begrudging, but they'll still do it. If you framed this part of the situation correctly, they will come along. They will ultimately come along, and it will be okay. And you continue to show them value. You increase the value you show them. You're doing amazing things for them, even for the price that they're paying. Not only will they do that, but they'll go tell their friends, go tell other companies, and say, okay, these guys, yeah, they had a price increase, but man, look at what they're doing for what they're charging me. I wonder how they make money. That's the ultimate cool one, because people do wonder that. Okay, that's the ultimate cool conversation you'll never get to hear, is I wonder how they make money. If you've got them thinking about that, then you're giving lots of value. If you're actually making money doing it, then you really got them. If you're not, if you overextended yourself, then that's another discussion we'll address in a minute. But if you can raise that and have them wonder, which then you can take them with you up to that next level. Okay. So, and then that will be okay for the existing customers. For the new ones, though, I mean, you can charge them that higher rate and go from there. But again, you've got to sing for your supper. You've got to prove that value. And so that's the important thing about raising prices. But on our price model, we'll show you in a minute, it just scoots that higher and gives you more profit in the process. Now let's talk about cutting costs. Yes, we're at that point. Okay. So there are cutting costs for the products and services that you offer is the first one. So where can it usually costs you something, even in a digital service, to provide what you provide. Okay. There's now what that number is, varies, especially in a digital service business. Those margins are those costs are pretty low, but they do exist. So you need to keep that in mind. So the costs do exist. They are out there. So how can you make that product better? That's going back to High Level, our favorite CRMs around here, but that's what they do. Their idea is, if we can consolidate a bunch of these softwares into one place and charge you one rate for them, then that saves you money and it, gets us customers. And so they've set that price at a place that makes sense for them. And of course, their company then has grown exponentially as a result. But they have also, excuse me, they've gotten those products and services costs where they need to be. Sometimes there's a better mousetrap. Sometimes services fold. Sometimes there's a product that comes along, even in the same company, that says, okay, you were doing this with us. Now consider moving up to this level, and here's what you get for it. Here's what your customers get for it. And so that adds extra functionality and things. So maybe you change that around. But again, it's the same thing as you're doing to your customers. So that when you increase prices on them, you have this battle from the other side that you have to justify increasing the prices. Well, in the same way, you look at kind of costs the same way in reverse. What are you getting for your money that you're paying? Is there a better solution out there from another company? Is there a better solution within the same company? Is there, can that all work together? So if you can solve that, then that's a good thing, and it's something you want to, keep track of with your service providers. So then you can translate that into the cost. This is the cost of goods sold on our model. Okay. So if you can, the smaller you can make that number, but still provide the level of service that you need to. Don't just make it cheap for cheap's sake. Sometimes cheap is just cheap. Okay. And you don't get any value, you don't get anything, and your customers don't get served well, and that looks poorly on you. That reflects poorly on you. So be careful doing this. Um, so you have that. And then you talk about the typical cost cutting that's associated with consultants or coaches, and it's gotten a bad rap, honestly. And that is overhead. We all want to make money. We all need to make money. Everybody needs to get paid a fair wage for what they do. Okay, let's just understand that. And if somebody is just like with prices and costs, if you're an employee that is providing amazing value for what you're doing and what they're pay and there may be another level that you feel you can justify. If you pay me a little more, here's what I can do for you. Here's the value I provide. Here's how I'm helping the company every single day. Then a raise is, excuse me, then a raise is justified. It's you should be able to ask for a little bit more money, but you're giving as much or more value than you're receiving for doing it. And that's okay. Um, so, employee stuff aside for a second, then you also have the concept of other overheads. So, your electric bill, your internet service, your whatever, and those are completely negotiable. Those are things that should provide the value you need on a regular basis. And if not, there's no qualms there about making changes. Just so long as you're not, jumping ship for the latest special, like my late father-in-law used to do. I used to tease him as he'd go from carrier to carrier on mobile phones or TV or whatever, and would jump back and forth to get the next special for 6 months. And 6 months down the road, he'd do it again. And, I guess he enjoyed that kind of misery of changing that around, but it was just puzzling to me. I understood why he did it, but I wouldn't want the hassle. But that's me, and that doesn't mean you shouldn't be able to go back to your existing provider and say, hey, I've been with you for a while. How about helping me out a little bit here? I've paid you enough money. Maybe we can give some of this back. So the concept of longevity discounts is kind of a fun way of keeping people engaged and involved. Loyalty discounts, where somebody stays with you for a while and you reward them somehow with doing that, for doing that. But there's lots of creative ways to work on your overhead that don't involve, just destroying people's livelihoods. If employees are not doing what their employees, hear me, if you're not doing what you're supposed to do, if you're lazy, if you're there's the adage I've mentioned before, and this is something that was prevalent throughout 20 plus years of business. If you take care of the company should take care of you. Okay. So what does that mean? That other than the obvious, if you put your effort and your sweat and your value and you're giving value every day over and above what you're getting paid, to the perception should be right, wrong, or indifferent by the manager or the owners, that this person, I don't know how they make it. Just like we were talking about earlier with the increasing prices. I don't know how they do this for the price they charge. I don't know how they're doing this on the salary we have them on. That should be the perception, because you're doing your job, not killing yourself, but you're doing your job. And you may be building the case to ask for more money, and that's, if you're doing what you're supposed to do, then that's fantastic. But if not, if you're not doing that, if you're not taking care of the company, then the company, shouldn't have any reason to take care of you. What's happened sadly in a lot of businesses now is that they just use the employees up, and they don't they don't take care of them back. They don't reciprocate that gratitude for somebody who really does try and really does put forth the effort. So then they figure, why try? Why should I bother? And then just ends up in a bad situation for everybody. So, in addition to the employee having the mindset that they should provide far more value than what they're getting paid, the company should be forward thinking enough to recognize that and say, you know what? They're putting in a lot of effort. How can we reward this? What is a need they have that we can address? Not all of them are financial, guys. Some of them have to do with other situations. And they can be there and rewarding those and recognizing those can just make that employee that much more involved. Maybe for somebody it's childcare. They need a childcare solution. They need something so they can continue adding value to the company, especially with, but let's just say it, say female workers. That's a big issue for y'all, for you ladies. So is making sure any kids you have are accounted for. So maybe there's something creative you can come up with and make it a policy for everybody, but at least available, but it makes some sense. Maybe you bring in a childcare reimbursement, whereas we've negotiated this great deal over here with a daycare center that's in our area that's fantastic. They do a great job. We'll try to keep track of that relationship to make sure they're providing good services to the kids, because those change over time with different people who come and go. But if there's one that consistently gives good performance and takes really good care of the kids, and they're absolutely raving about the whole thing, then by all means they should you can negotiate something with that, and it can solve a problem. And you'll be amazed at what kind of productivity boost you get out of somebody by solving a problem like that for them, if that's what's important to them. So there are alternative ways of doing this, but taking care of the company, and the company should take care of you. Okay. So just try to remember that. Try to always keep that in mind. And so this then comes back to the increasing the margins, increasing costs, and decrease. Let me try that again. Increasing profits, decreasing costs, and widening that margin. It always comes back to that, and that's the most important thing to make. This can make some huge profits. What you also want to do before we leave this is do this regularly. Look at this regularly. It doesn't have to be every week, although that at least, but you got to be vigilant. You've got to be on top of these things. What are you paying? What are the costs you're paying for the services you provide? What are the software costs? What are the different things that are going on? Be aware of situations, because what could be, okay, now, it doesn't have to consume you. It consumes accounting people, trust me. But if that's not you, then just periodically check in on it every 3 to 4 months, and certainly every 6 months, do a full audit of it, of what you're charging versus what your costs are. On all sides, and see where that lands, and see if there's any changes you can make to make improvements in that. Make it a regular thing. Make it a regular part of what you do, and it will be a regular, hopefully a regular margin boost as things change, or you anticipate changes that are coming. Maybe services have gotten more expensive to provide. Maybe maybe not as many people are buying, and so then you can make course corrections to make that happen. This is nuts and bolts stuff, but this is the section. If you can figure this out and stay on top of it, with or without a financial expert, it'd be good to have a guide through all that. But if you don't, then just staying active in it. It's not overwhelming. But it does require regular vigilance. So stay on top of it, and you'll certainly benefit. So again, back to our model, what does that do? Well, if you're decreasing your cost of goods sold, that's the cost to make the products and services, and you're decreasing your overhead. If these are going down, right? Look at it like a mouth. the a mouth of a river that just gets wider the more you take stuff away from it. So you make this stuff lower. Excuse me. Meantime, you have increased your profits now, or increased your prices. Now your prices, that's going to come in up on this particular situation. Price increases for the products or services you charge is going to come in up here. Okay. So that's not something that's already accounted for. If you increase your prices, it still costs you something to make that. So you've increased your price. So this number is going up, but meanwhile, this number is going down. So there's your first split. And there's that split becomes the gross profit. Well, guess what? Then you're taking down, you're trimming down your overhead costs even more, but the profit stays the same that you've already put together there that it costs to do these products or services wherever you set them at. So that number, increases twice. And so that all makes your net profit down here a big wide place, where you can find a lot of joy there, and you can find a lot of margin. But none of that works unless you're providing value. So here's my new car, old car principle, just to put a fine point on this. Sometimes the newest, shiniest tactics or strategies or things don't necessarily replace what's older and working. Okay, so what I kind of mean by that is whenever sometimes you're busy adding a new website, you're busy adding a new something or other, you're doing this strategy over, you're doing this strategy over here. Look inward to what you already have. And that's what this whole thing has been about in increasing profits, is making the difference with what you have, but you're not exploiting. I can almost guarantee it. It's what keeps my company in business. The fact that people are not exploiting that. There's so many of them. And because I'm not, I'm not throwing stones. This is something we didn't do either. This is something we did not do well enough either, is look at what we already had that could make a huge difference, with where we could be. So don't be so quick to fall for the newest, shiniest object. But or the newest, shiniest way to, have it's like all these new strategies, have a new profit, more profit, more profit, more profit. What about what you're already doing, what your business is made of? Are there some things that you can do in our live events and in a lot of other places, and certainly in our coaching relationships? We're going to talk a lot about marketing fundamentals and what that means. This is what that means. We look at not only the marketing fundamentals, but the fundamentals in general of what you offer. Are there opportunities and assets based on what you already have and assets to what's already in house, what you're already doing, or what is part of a normal active business role that you could better utilize? And when you do that, I know it's a lot of big words. Are there existing situations that are part of a normal business that you're not looking inward at? You're busy chasing the shiniest thing instead of looking inward at what's already going on in your business, what you already have, and where you can grow and increase your margins. Maybe it's bettering the customer experience. Maybe it's offering, changing your products or services around, or setting the prices on them properly, to where you're getting paid. Have your costs gone up for these things? And you need to find a service provider that does the same at a little better rate. And so then you increase those margins. Where are you increasing those margins with what you already have? And how can that make a difference for you? If all that makes your head hurt, then consider booking a business breakthrough strategy session with us. And I promise you, we will go to whatever level you need, and we will help you sort this out. And that's perfectly okay. We'll get a success blueprint on for you, where we can then see exactly where your business is at with your numbers. And then we'll set about piece by piece, shoulder to shoulder, done with you. We don't want to get all up in your business. We want you to get all up in your business with us, right alongside, working right alongside, right at your elbow, going, okay, what if we did this? What if we did this? What if we did this? Here's the result. Okay, what if we did this? Here's the result. What if we did this? Here's the result. So, I mean, this is what we do. So please take advantage of that. Strategy.jkoworks.com, or go to our website, jkoworks.com, scroll down to the bottom and book an appointment. Start that 22-minute conversation that could change your business life and lead you to real business life change. This has been very much the wrap up of a series of a breakdown of sort of the 5 pillars of things that we offer. And I hope you found it helpful. And I hope you found it. There's more out there on the YouTube channel, Facebook group for boosting business success to 50K and beyond. There's lots of resources and lots of ways you can find this. And so if you have any questions about those, go back and watch some of those. If you want to see what it looks like for your situation, that's when you book the strategy call and we get going with this, or you go directly to the Success Blueprint. If you've heard enough and you just want to start, see where your business ranks, that's blueprint.jkoworks.com. Make that happen and start your journey with us. Even if you're doing everything well, the blueprint is free. The strategy session is free. Okay. Even if I've had businesses that do that and that have done the blueprint and they're doing everything right. And so I go ahead and offer them services, but I don't expect them to take it because I tell them they're doing everything right. And they get to see, it's a great check for them to see these are the results of what I'm doing. And yes, it's working. There's not much these guys can find for us to increase our profits because we're already doing it. So that happens too. One of the things I really didn't touch on in there, as far as longevity goes, is knowing when to say when. Knowing when to say with a customer, okay, you've done everything with me that you need to do. You are a success story. Congratulations. Be awesome. This is great. So many people, so many businesses with their customers, they get to the end of that relationship and they don't really know what to do. They just it either ebbs away or it ends badly because somebody doesn't stand up and say, you know what, this is good. This is perfect. You've done exactly what you needed to do. Now it's time for you to step out and do it. And we will still be here. That was the part of that open door that I really didn't touch on enough, honestly. Because these are live and sometimes you get going down certain roads. But that's what I meant by the open door situation. Leave that door open with them. Open door referrals. Leave that door open with them. Constantly bring that around and constantly make that something that you leave on a good term. And that door is always open. They could walk back in if their situation changes. And it would be better if they walked back in and brought their friends. Or other businesses, because you have done so you can do for them what you can do for those businesses, for those referrals, what you did for them. So that's what you want, is open door referrals at all times. So we'll talk some more about that in maybe another time. And we're gonna break some of these down a little bit more. So it'll be fun. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being a part of all of this with us. And continue to watch these spaces. Comment if you have any questions. Yes, I understand you can help us with that, but we're good at the moment. But if you have any other questions about the content or the material that you saw, then we'd be happy to answer that or just book a breakthrough strategy session with us and let's get that started. Thanks so much for watching. We will talk to you next time.